Hi everyone, welcome to our second fireside chat that we've done with Edward as part of our research lab on data science and AI operations. That's part of D Cubed. Hello everyone that's on Zoom, and for the people in the room, hello. Edward, anything to add?
No, just I'll introduce myself quickly. Edward McFarlane III, professor at HBS in the Technology Operations and Management Unit, and co-PI with Yob of the Data Science and AI Operations Lab at D Cubed, and love building algorithms and love deploying them and seeing how they work in organizations.
Nice. I probably should have introduced myself.
You should have.
That usually helps. Yavor Bozhinov, Yab is what pretty much everyone calls me. Also a faculty at HBS in the Tom group. Work on lots of fun things around experimentation and how you use that to make decisions and sort of how companies use it. But lately you've been doing a lot around how experimentation fits into broader AI ecosystem. So our research lab, maybe we'll spend a second on there, right?
Yep.
We basically are really looking at how companies can operationalize AI, and we're looking at it for sort of a full spectrum of how you're coming up with what AI to build, how you're building that AI, and then also how people are using that AI, how you're driving adoption of it, etc.
Yep.
Anything else to
No,
answer?
I think that's the lab. If you're interested, look us up on DQ's website. Also, feel free to reach out. We're always looking to work with folks on problems, both researchers and companies on issues. And so, if that's interest of you, let us know.
Yeah, this is going to be super informal. Feel free to jump in with questions. We've got some stuff prepared, but it's going to be a fun conversation. Yeah, I feel like we can get started. So so we have an amazing guest, QuHarrison Terry. And we've known each other for a little bit of time now, over a year, I think.
Yeah.
And you know, it's my absolute pleasure to have you here. He's been a guest in my classroom before. He helped us teach this one-day course on generative AI. And when he told me he was in town, I had to jump on this opportunity to bring him here and give him a chance to share his perspective with you all. So I could start to introduce you, but I feel like you're much better at that than I am. So let me just open the floor to you and just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your background, and really sort of your journey into like what you do now and your interest of AI. And then we'll jump in with a bunch of other questions on sort of where this is all going.
Yo, what's up, everyone? It's great to meet you virtually on Zoom. I am QuHarrison Terry. And by day, I work with Mark Cuban. I'm the head of growth at Mark Cuban Companies. And by night, I like to think of myself more so as a future thinker. And that encapsulates a bunch of different things. Most notably, I'm an author. You might have seen me on TV. You might have seen me building companies, whatever. I like to just think of that future thinker title more so as something that is a bit broader than an entrepreneur. And it still encapsulates the whole concept of, in order to really see these emerging technologies and trends transpire in our everyday lives, we actually have to have some thought behind how they integrate between, reality and society and the actual trends. And so that's how I think of the whole future thinker moniker. A bit of background into me and how I got here. I grew up in Wisconsin, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to be exact, and not too many great things, statistically speaking, about that place. Yes, I like cheese. I'm a cheesehead. Most people, I get that question a ton when I say that, or am I a Packers fan, or do I like the Bucks, all that good stuff. And now, most notably, there's quite a few rappers that are big time from the city, which is kind of cool to see transpire. And thus forth. How did I get here? How did I get into technology and even speaking about generative AI today? It started off, I would say, back when I just started looking at emerging technologies, most notably the NFT paradigm. So back in 2015, I started 23Vivi, which was the first online marketplace that transacted digital art that was protected by a blockchain of sorts. And so that was on the Bitcoin blockchain. It was a venture-backed company. We did that and learned a lot of things. We were way too early. But the cool thing is we didn't lose any money.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, why do you think that is?
They're
They
putting
didn't put much money in.
No,
Venture backed.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't the case. Like, I mean, we put like $250,000 in.
Okay.
So I mean, how do we? It's a
Did
very
you-
obvious answer.
You just own some Bitcoin.
That's
Maybe
exactly it. So the Bitcoin kept growing, and we were transacting in Bitcoin, and we got to a point where we had this inflection point where it's like, guys, do you think it's going to keep going up, or do you think it's going to go down? And it's like, we can make our investors whole again, and the rest could be history. And so we took that. I got into healthcare, kept doing the entrepreneurial thing, and then eventually I was like, hey, let me see what else is out there. Started an ad agency with a few of my friends, and we focused on just non-traditional growth campaigns. So this is growth marketing before it became a mainstream topic, and we were doing that for all types of organizations. Lo and behold, I was in New York and I saw Banksy had tagged a building. And I'm like probably one of the first 100 people to see Banksy's work. And I take a picture and it's noticeable. You're like, wow, you're mesmerized. You see a Banksy in real life. And I noticed, like, when I woke up, because I woke up thinking about it. It's like 6 a.m, and I saw a billboard above that, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I could like buy that billboard, because I was super early on this trend, and so I bought that billboard. And Mark Cuban would somehow see it, went viral on LinkedIn, all this other nonsense. But it caught his eye. I got an email from a Gmail one day, and I thought it was phishing, so I just didn't respond. It was just like, all right, you're not gonna get me. Lo and behold, it was real, and that's how I ended up at MCC. Beyond that, when I think about some of the technologies that people kind of associate with me today, it's largely through just experience. It's like I pick like a technology, and even how we're here today is like I just started like going really, really deep on generative AI and just experimenting and running it myself. And I think that like, that's how you actually operationalize some of these things. Is like you actually have to, if we were in the kitchen, like, a chef's kitchen, they say you have to get in the juice.
Yeah.
You gotta get your hands dirty.
You gotta
And maybe before we jump into this, right, just to mention, right, you have 2 books.
Yeah.
One is on the NFT handbook. You have the Metaverse handbook.
Yeah.
You've got a 3rd book coming out, right?
I've got a 3rd book. We've
Which
got
will be out very soon. What is that? You finished it like a while ago.
Yeah, so so I guess we got a lot of books coming. I wrote a book with co-authored with Floyd Mayweather, so that's coming out. Right now working on another book, which is it's the Japanese handbook. So we're gonna be breaking down this new non-traditional method of learning Japanese that actually uses AI to some extent. So
Yeah.
we'll talk
Awesome.
about
So
that
super
later.
exciting stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe we can just dive straight into this. And I know we were talking actually as we were walking up, you were telling us there's like X number of use cases for generative AI. So maybe we can just start off with that question. Like, what are some of the real successful uses you're seeing of generative AI right now?
So I was thinking about it even while we were talking about it, and so I think, like, actually, I don't want this to just be mine. I'm with the
You
professor.
spend too much time at HBS.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna give you my
alumni in the group.
I'm gonna give you the perspective.
He's turning a cold call into
No, I
a
got
reverse cold call.
I got it. Here we go. So I think it's safe to say that one of the best use cases you can use for generative AI in any organization of any size is customer service.
Sure.
Like, you
Makes
can
sense.
you can go from 0 to 1 right now, and like you can say before you used AI in customer service and after you used AI, and it's night and day. And it's not that hard to implement. I think the processes and the procedures around it are probably where I see people mess up. So it's like usually a classic business manager problem. Like, how are you actually communicating it throughout the org and training your task force? So I think that's the first thing. Second thing that I'm going to say is really, really like monumental with the Gen AI in its current state today is going to be media. You can generate marketing materials, you can generate images, you can generate now even videos. I don't know if I've used that in the campaign just yet, but we've seen it. I mean, the Super Bowl, both Super Bowls, the one that just took place and the one last year included, generative AI works to some extent, which is noticeable. That if it can work at that high level, why are you not utilizing it in your own organization and we all have to get the word out, or we all have to communicate with someone or someone. And so that's the second. Now the third, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of different edge cases, and this is where I'm going to come to you all. Like, I mean, you kind of see the direction that I'm going down. What would you like? I mean, what's the consensus here? Because I'm
consensus. That's all. I don't know if consensus exists right now.
No, I mean, just like, I mean, at this, amongst the three of us, like, I mean, it seems to be that we agree on the first two. What would be a genuine third that you see from your?
Well, I mean, I think the things I have seen have largely been the ability to sort of, I think it connects to media in a sense, but like, and but like it's idea generated, like the ability to generate ideas, the ability to sort of very quickly explore a space.
Okay.
And so it's sort of it's like sort of this idea of like conceptualizing something.
Right.
That to me, and so again, like I think that often customer service, what you're trying to do,
Yes.
customer comes to you, okay, I need to somehow conceptualize a problem, come up with a solution, let me serve you some way, so that becomes, it's used there. Media obviously is conceptualizing either video, audio, text around the brand and try to convey a certain sentiment. And so I think to me, those are the places where I really see it thriving.
Okay.
I don't sort of, where I see a challenge is like sort of like problem solving. Like I think it's difficult at truly problem solving things.
Yeah. What would you throw in there?
Maybe want to throw in there, and that's not quite the problem solving. I think the data and analytics angle, I think, is super exciting. There's a number of startups that have, and even like incumbents. I don't know if you've seen like Google Colab, for example. Even now has like,
I saw that
just put in exactly. I think that was last week. Then you started putting text, and it'll generate the code for you.
Oh wow.
It's
in Colab.
In Colab.
That's pretty.
And there's a number of companies that are doing that. So it's really democratizing how you access your company's data. And I think that is, in addition to all this like creative things, like that analytical thing, I think is actually really, really powerful. And I know everyone in your experiment, right? That was before the technology could actually do that type of analysis. But what I like about the data science angle of it is that it's actually really clean, because it just writes code for you. So if you understand code, you can go and like look at that code and see if it did the right thing. So it's like quite like you can actually check where the ideas are coming from, etc.
So I love both of your answers, right? Because like from where you're coming from, it's exactly where I think it's exactly where I think it should be, right? You guys are thinking about things as they are about to happen almost, right? So Yob, you're thinking about what does this look like at scale when it comes to code generation? You're thinking about it from like a problem solving, like, can I talk to this AI and can this AI help me with my actual real day-to-day problems? And I'm gonna say, I haven't seen that yet, like where I could, like, I wouldn't bet on that just yet. I think that's where the money should go to like beef this up. The third point that I would give it is communication. And I'll talk a bit about this, how this actually works in the companies that I've seen, right? If I have generative AI and I have an organization or a team, let's just say 5 people that can use it, right? How much familiarity on a team of 5 start to get baked into that team?
A lot.
Like
they have shorthands for things.
Yes. What happens is I might understand that. You might understand that. When we add a 6th, a 7th, a 10th, a 25th, and now they're trying to catch up. Why can't what AI's done a really good job on my own teams and also like in teams that I've observed is this is the great equalizer in communication. If I want to talk like Yob, I literally can like, you have to know how to use the tool. And you have to know what the benchmark, like you actually have to have some understanding of how these generative models were trained. Because that allows you to kind of know where to point your, I would say your beacon of like, of guidance. And so as you're doing that and you're instructing it, it's like, it might not know who this fringe internet writer that you follow is, but it's gonna know who Joanna Stern is from the Wall Street Journal, right? So if I say, I want you to write in the style of Joanna Stern, these instructions for a freelancer, and I just take all of the stuff that we've talked about. Well, the AI is kind of smart, right? It knows how we talk in shorthand. It's 80% there. And now it can simplify it and give it to the next person, and it's at a Wall Street Journal level quality of instruction.
So let me ask a question that was not, so but just make me think of this, because, so I agree with that, but that begins that conversation we had before, that they feel having a society before, but okay, well then, if you're basic, is that Joanna Stern sort of like her intellectual property, is that her style,
So
are companies gonna run into an issue now where, you know what I mean, like, well.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, like, I hear you. That's definitely, and as a writer, I like,
Right.
I hear you. But here's the counterpoint, right? Like, we study Hemingway because we love his style.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, some people, I'm not gonna say we all love Hemingway's style, but
Pretty good writer.
we follow, I'm not gonna, but we understand if there's some elements of the style that we actually choose to educate ourselves on.
Yeah.
My question is like, what's the difference? If we as humans practice that, and like, I mean, if you want to make it as an entertainer or as a anything where it's like arts based, you're actually gonna have some part where you're actually mimicking the people that came before you. Whether it's Taylor Swift when she was like 13, she spent a lot of time just covering and playing things in Nashville. Drake, you know, he did a lot of covers of Kanye and Lupe Fiasco songs before he became Drake. I'm using music right now, which can literally jump into any of the arts, and that's always going to be true. So the AI is mimicking the greats of our time, right. But I almost feel like, yeah, if it's reading your IP, like, congrats, you just became the new Hemingway.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, right? Because there's a bunch of court cases right now.
Yeah, tons.
And so it's, I mean, maybe this is a good point to sort of flip this around a little bit, which is, we're seeing these cool opportunities, and yet they still haven't, for most businesses, they haven't really been that transformative.
Yeah.
So maybe like, what do you think is holding businesses back? Like, what are the challenges that they're encountering with this? Why isn't everyone doing customer services with generative AI? Why isn't everyone doing their media with this? Why isn't everyone doing communication with this? Like, what are the roadblockers?
Yeah, it's been like 20 months since this stuff has been made. No. And I think that's the issue that we have today. Yeah, it's time. Like it's been 20 months. So if this was a baby, right? You'd have a nearly an 18-month-old child in your arms, and you're asking it, why is it not running down the field catching? Well,
but I mean, like, people are trying to do it, right? So I guess maybe just to reframe it, like yes, it's been a short period of time. But when you're trying to do some of these things, what are you encountering as challenges? If it purely just takes time.
The people that you're talking about doing it, how many billions of dollars in just pure capital that they've thrown at this? Lots, right? And it's paying off in dividends, right? Like you can argue and say that these investments have been worth it. Like fundamentally speaking, like we look at it, I mean, directionally they're going the right way. My only point is it's been 18 months. So we've also seen this happen in crypto. We've seen this happen in the metaverse. We've seen this happen now in AI. The question is like, how long is our human attention spans collectively as a generation going to sustain the hype cycle that is AI? And can AI keep producing tricks to keep itself relevant in the ether? So far, the answer to that question has been yes. Like it has been 18 months. And there's no singular month that has felt like the same thing. Even this month, heck, you've got Sora that happened about 12 days ago. Yeah. You've got Grok that happened less than 14 days ago. Yeah, 10 days, not even that. It was like 8 days ago. Grok is 90% faster than GPT-4.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm pushing at is really the foundational layer is advancing.
So think about your question.
Integration of it into business processes, like that, like the actual operationalization.
So if I'm a manager and I implemented 3.5, let's just say 8 months ago, right? Yeah. How far behind the 8 ball in LLMs am I right today?
Considerably, in terms of the technology that you're using, considerably.
Yeah. And we're asking why we haven't operationalized.
So do you think people are waiting then for that? Like, are people kind of like waiting to find this?
Yeah. I mean, because the first thing that's going to happen when you go into some of these meetings, right, is like, what's the ROI? What's the impact? What's the impact? What's the impact? Mm-hmm. And nobody really wants to go first in this. Like outside of the Valley, of course, like Silicon Valley, like they're fine. I mean, it's the Valley. But when you get away from Silicon Valley, you're far. The innovators that want to take that risk right now are far and few between, and the ones that are taking it are being awarded handsomely. But it's kind of like that thing where it's like you go to the casino and you're in Vegas and you see someone on that machine, they pull the lever, and like they win all this money. And then you have this bias where you're like, man, if they can do it, I can do the same.
Right.
But one of you ends up winning and one of you ends up losing.
Yeah.
The question is, not a lot of people want to go to that casino and pull that lever.
So who do you think is in a better position? Is it like the scrappy startups right now, or is it more like the enterprises that have those billions of dollars to burn?
So that's a great question, right? Because it's also like we're actually this is perfect. If you're the enterprise, you can go into this casino and actually probably set up a really nice destination.
Yeah.
The only problem is those court cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna come asking you,
Yeah.
hey, what data did you use?
Yeah.
What's the training on? And so now you've got to figure out like this very strong legal precedent of how you maintain not only your corporate integrity, but also like your ethical your ethics across the board. Because the minute this stuff starts to get blurry, we all know how AI works. It's a hyper speed trend. Yeah, I don't even have a term for it. It's super fast, right? Lightning speed. And so it's gonna run away on you. And like then you have to figure out now you're playing catch up and you're from behind. And like this is your business, your brand, and you don't really want to play that game. I think the smaller companies have the advantage where they can kind of take some bumps along the road. Even the best company in the space, OpenAI, we've all watched publicly take some jabs and some stumbles, right?
Yeah.
Sam Altman and co are doing a heck of a job maintaining that thing. But you got to remember, they're flying a rocket ship at maximum speed. We haven't seen this before, ever.
Yeah.
Ever before. And so no one's mad that they're taking some bumps. But if this were one of the prized companies on the Fortune 500 list, that's not gonna fare well for their share price.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, which companies are best suited? I think to understand where we could go, you can make a really strong case for the solopreneurs. I think we're gonna learn a heck of a lot from solopreneurs in the next 24 months, but I think they're actually gonna cap out. So I would not recommend being a solopreneur because I think that ceiling is going to exist. That ceiling exists, and it's going to hit them hard. The people that get blindsided and think that they'll be able to turn this forever, but because this industry is so vast, and we're starting to think in T's, literally like trillions. Like you have to think in trillions. Like what NVIDIA yesterday. Sam Altman and the amount of money he's raising for his next venture, we have to start thinking in trillions. So now, because we're thinking in trillions, you as a solopreneur can actually probably make a GPT that makes you billions of dollars.
So do you think the future is going to be these types of partnerships like Microsoft, OpenAI, where you have like the scrappy startup taking a lot of risk, trying to do things, and then they partner with like a large organization to really take advantage of it.
Yeah. Near term for sure, right? Like I think I think you can pull that lever a few more times. But I think that's a if you're not already in the lane, you're not already having that conversation. I don't think that's something you can sprint into it unless you're like the Usain Bolt of this, right? Like I think that train is far enough along the tracks that like it will be very hard to catch up. However, I do think you could take like an approach sort of similar to you all, where you could be very, very knowledgeable about this stuff, and you can jump into a company and you can supercharge and give that company an advantage that like none other. And you know, a good example is going back to OpenAI. Look at how much impact Andrew Carbathy probably had at OpenAI, right? Like it's notable that he leaves. That's where you really want to be right now as a practitioner, but that's not operation. If I'm an executive at a company and I'm a decision maker and I'm saying, well, Q, that adds no value. What you need to start thinking about is on your team. Google had 20% time, and that would lead to companies like Gmail and other amazing innovations. Maps, yes. Yeah. At your company, you need to start thinking about time a little bit differently. If I've got this new AI tool and I know I can get 40% more efficiency out of you in our day-to-day tasks, I need to say like, yo, you're an all-star. I need you to be on this special Black Ops team where you just experiment with AI. I'll create some type of budget. It doesn't have to be a lot of money because these tools don't cost that much right now. And if you're working with small data sets, it's just literally time spent. And you guys just run through experiments after experiments and build up that worldly mentality of how can we see this? And you already have the proverbial corporate Kool-Aid that we've indoctrinated you with. If you
this is what you're saying at the larger enterprise company. Because at the small company, I'm trying to like make payroll the next month, right? So I mean, I have the time to sort of to send you off on this sort of Black Ops team, right?
You'll pull that lever. So you'll actually take the chance. Like if I say, hey, I've got this AI that will increase your ROI by 50%, you're not going to ask me the legal and moral ethical things. So if I'm a solopreneur,
I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're just going to pull it. And if you lose, you're like, I was going to lose anyway. If I win, now you're like, man, I got this AI, and you're supercharged to do things that no other company would do, and you're actually a pioneer showing us what's possible.
Okay.
So thinking about these experiments, and I love this, do you think that people should be going for, like, should these experiments be really aimed at building new products and services that are customer facing, or should they be really trying to rethink of how the company's operations work, right? Like, what would you prioritize? And I know you kind of want to do both, right? But like, it's better to, my question is like, can we try to prioritize one? And if you would prioritize one, what would you do? Internal things or sort of customer facing external?
We don't live in a utopia, right? Yeah. And because of that, you're gonna have to go into your company and think about what are the internal politics at play and at stake. And I think if it's a very political environment, you're going to need a lot of small wins and some thesis around why you want to take a bigger at bat. And so the way I would probably get those, the actionable item there is I would actually probably focus on operations first, right? So if I'm in a very, very toxic, very political environment, operations is the one thing that everyone can speak, and then you can also get HR buy-in. And so getting HR buy-in with this is actually a unique angle. So that would be kind of the way I would play that. But the second thing I would do, if I were just trying to build new products, is I think you need to be in the room with the people that are doing this stuff day in and day out. We only learn about it because we're very close to the heartbeat of the innovators that are actually thinking through the new challenges. You yourself are working on algorithms. You yourself are running massive studies and seeing how it comes to life and coming with these new questions. If you didn't have that vantage point, you probably wouldn't have used Copilot, right? Because you'd be like, oh, ChatGPT is good enough. Gemini is good enough. Like, I don't wish like Copilot. I already got ChatGPT, and there's a lot of people that are fascinated by AI, but they haven't used, I would say, 7 of the top 25 generative AIs.
Just using one of them, you think?
Yeah, for sure. Because like, why? I'm limited on time. Everyone keeps saying ChatGPT. Why do I need Midjourney when I can just do something in DALL-E and ChatGPT? And so what happens is your whole generative AI viewpoint and perspective is shaped solely by one tool. And if you know anything about this space right now, each tool is so fundamentally different that it doesn't even feel like this thing has actually started, because we haven't even gotten to a common baseline of what Gen AI is.
And maybe I'd love to open it up to questions. I don't know if there's some stuff in the chat. I don't know.
I haven't seen anything in the chat. Anything in the chat.
Okay. But if anyone has questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. We can keep going.
Yeah, I have the questions anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, if there are questions from the audience, I want to offer that opportunity. But as we're waiting, maybe one of the questions would be, because you're talking about this sort of idea of focusing on operations first. In your experience working with all these companies, and Mark Cuban companies, are you seeing? And these are mostly small, medium-sized companies, right? Yeah. So are you seeing some of them adapt some of these? So are you seeing them actually successfully do this? Or are you seeing some things that are challenging? Like, what are you seeing from the ground floor?
So my favorite quotable example that I can give that everyone can go look up. We have a company in our portfolio. It's called Truffle Shuffle, and they had this challenge. Well, for the people that don't know, Truffle Shuffle is it's a website where you can go and you can buy a cooking class, but it's an online cooking class that is effectively like a Zoom that you'll see here. But your instructor is a 3-star Michelin chef.
Okay.
Right? Or someone that's worked in a 3-star Michelin chef environment. So if you want to learn how to make a souffle and you don't want to follow a YouTube video or you need feedback in real time, you actually can get that. And you also have a cooking community. Like they built up this enormous cooking community. Like that's the cool thing about it. And what Truffle Shuffle's done is they're all chefs. So they know how to work off a checklist. They know how to like keep order going. They're not entrepreneurs or businessmen in the traditional proverbial sense.
Yeah.
And so what they were like getting caught up on is like, I mean, we have to write the metadata for the websites. We have to take the photos. They just want to make the meal. And after they made the meal and someone's like eaten it and enjoyed it and is happy, they're on to the next dish.
Yeah.
And they had spent all this time and money buying all these cameras and taking like lighting studios, because to take food photography is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And it's also quite expensive if you have to do it all the time. And so do you hire someone on staff? And you know, how reliable is that? And like all the efficiencies and nuances there. Long story short, they got an intern who ended up becoming a more substantial player in the company. But he was just like, hey, this AI thing could actually, you know, change the way we sell all of our cooking classes. And they were like, how? And so what they did is they trained a model where they took all of their previous photos, because they have they've got a massive cooking community. So every time someone takes a dish, they're getting, you know, 50, or every time they do a class, they're getting 50 photos from the user generated side, plus they're getting all the dishes and photos that they've taken throughout the years. And so they've got a sizable database. And we all know when you have a good database, you can actually get some good results. And so then they took that and they said, hey, we're going to be making a surf and turf dish and it's going to look like this. They just type that in text, they get it out and they can plate it in different options in different ways. And so when you go online, the chefs are so good that they can actually match what the Gen AI is showing you. And so all of their...
Most of the images being generated, and then they're gonna make the food look like the image, make sure it fully matches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when you go buy that dish, that steak you saw that you're cooking never existed.
Oh, comes up. Can I hit and this? So this is actually quite remarkable, because one of the biggest challenges in generative AI is often AI is creating things that we can't, that's not accurate, not conceptualized the way we conceptualize it. And so often, so then it's almost like this is not correct. But the point is, when you're doing it in a space where you're the expert, you can, if it makes it look away, you can make it look that way. Oh, it's a little darker, so I know I have to grill that a little bit more. They can actually make it. They can make the fake thing be real because of their skill set.
Yeah. That's probably like, that's why I said, like, you asked me like what is like the most fascinating way. It's like they took all the things that are kind of challenges and nuances right now and made them advantages, and it's working.
Remarkable.
And so the business, here's the business side. You would think that, okay, if you change all the real photos for these generative AI photos, a person's gonna tell and the sales are gonna go down.
Yeah.
It was quite the opposite. Their cooking classes haven't sold this well since.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So, do you have a question about the question?
Is that because the food looks more like what they actually made, so they relate to it more?
So it's only been 18 months since Gen AI has been here. They started this process about 6 months ago, and they started, and they went down the training and figuring out how to do it about 6 months. They've only been, they turned it on right like in the middle around Black Friday. So we only have like basically 4 or 5 months of data. So it's not enough data to say, you know, it's because the food looks better. I think it's because, like, empirically speaking, I think I think they have more shots. So before you only had one shot of this dish, and you know, if you don't have time to remake it and to retake it, you're using how it looked 3 years ago or 6 months ago or when the last time you made that dish and took a photo of it. Now I can say, look, make it look this way, and we can change the seasonality. So when it was Thanksgiving, the tables all look Thanksgiving. When it was Christmas, it was all festive in that way. Now it's just, you know, Valentine's Day, they had more wine, and all that.
But you can make it. I think the point is you can say, listen, take a picture of the photo. You take a picture of the meal, and it looks at me, it's like, oh, that's kind of bland or kind of doesn't look very exciting.
Yeah.
But I can we take a picture. Now you can say, hey, make it more festive, like you said, make it more vibrant.
Yeah.
And then the picture looks more vibrant, but the problem is the picture looks a certain way, but then the food doesn't look that way. But now I'm a chef, so you make the picture look more vibrant, and then I can also make sure the food matches that picture.
Yes.
And so it is. There's both like this like appealing to your senses, and then making sure that what you get actually then delivers on that effectively.
And they throw away anything that wouldn't actually be.
Become actually.
Yeah. Of course.
And the beautiful thing about that team is all chefs. Remember they're not entrepreneurs. So now a chef can go in there and generate the picture, and the chef knows that Chef Jason's not going to cook that next.
Yeah.
And because it's Gen AI, I mean, the cost now is negligible compared to working with a photographer, cooking the dish, and imagine if you messed up the dish. Now you gotta restart it, time and spend, all that. So you basically
I like that a lot.
Readjusted the entire industry, and that's how they're doing it. So
we got some questions in the chat that I don't know if you want to. So we got one from David. He says, "What's the thoughts on search in Google using new AI search tools? Where may they be headed? A possible new search revolution?" And he added that where I'm going with this is the advertising model. Search disappears, perhaps, and the advertising is embedded in the AI itself.
Yeah,
you make this comment about sort of like these new app stores type things.
Yeah. So, that's a multi-pronged question. So, as a marketer, it's kind of sad to see to think that there's going to be a foreseeable end to just organic search. Because organic search for many marketers, doesn't matter where you got your start, organic search has probably been roughly half or more than half of how you built your understanding or
SEO. That's what everyone.
SEO.
Yeah. I mean, that's the bread and butter of
keywords, figuring out how that
doesn't matter.
Algorithm,
Doesn't matter if you're a TikTok marketer, or YouTuber, or a blogger, whatever. Like it was all about search optimization. Yeah. Now in an AI, go ahead.
No.
Okay. So in an AI powered world where the intent changes, like Google is interesting because Bard and Gemini, as we know it, is still pulling the information from all the different sites.
Yeah.
And that's like, it almost is like they're stepping on their own toes, but I think they're cannibalizing their own product because they have the infrastructure to potentially one day make it an agent of sorts where you just talk to it and it gives you information. And the difference here is like, it's Google, so you have all of Google, right? All of your emails, all of the web, all of these things.
It was funny because Google basically waited until Bing did it.
Yeah.
And then
Bing
had a massive spike in usage, and they were like, whoa. That's gonna stop.
Attention was Google, GPT was Google. These are all Google-based technology. I mean, they're papers that we read.
They're Google, but they didn't implement it.
Exactly, that's my point. They built the technology, they never implemented it.
Go back to my earlier point. If you're a publicly traded company in the top Fortune 500, why would you play with your stock ticker with something that's going to hallucinate? We all know Gen AI is the best BSer of all time right now.
It's pretty good.
Right? Why would I put the best BSer in my actual stock price together?
Yeah.
That's just like, that sounds like insanity, right? And so, they're gonna wait. And I think that I think a lot of people raining on Google's parade is, I think it's cool to do that right now. Because of what happened, and if you really understand the space and like a lot of the parameters that exist, is because of Google and the research that they've done.
Of course.
I do think that they're going to be a significant player. If they go for search, cool. If they go for like the agent of like where you can just talk to this thing, and because they have Android, because they have decades of our social communications and all these other facets, they might actually have a really cool agent. One thing that I always thought was just one thing that shocked me is, and this, I'm gonna finish Greg's.
David's.
I'm gonna finish David's question, and I know we've got others, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But one thing that shocks me just entirely is we go back to 2016. There was this big promise of Voice 2020. By 2020, there's going to be all these voice assistants. Search is going to die. And I bring this up because we've seen like search has gotten in the ring with some formidable technology before, and it basically Warren Buffett the technology. It did not change. It held on to its own thing, and we saw the magical world of Buffett with search, right? Like, just hold your position and add value. And what I'm saying here is if we can take anything from that,
Mm.
voice in itself has been like think about voice technology, Alexas, Echoes, assistants, all that, and now GPTs.
Yeah.
GPTs are like leagues ahead. And the funny thing is we even still see the fallacies in that. And so just because this is really cool, it's captive, doesn't mean it's going to change the incumbents and how they work. But it definitely has created some adaptability there. I think that because of that, Google's a little they're playing rope-a-dope a little bit. And in that, you know, there's some really strong pockets for marketers to take advantage and get some free marketing right now. Like, you know, there's never been a better time to do SEO optimization because you actually can play at a game where you're making AI content and you're ranking for it at a near ubiquitous rate.
Okay.
So there's that. To answer, what was the last part of that question?
So basically, is advertising models of search disappearing, perhaps advertising embedded in AI itself?
I mean, inevitably so. Like, we have to get to a common understanding of what is Gen AI and what are the ethical parameters around that. But like, do you think Bing's not going to, or a Copilot's not going to have some Microsoft influence and try to sell you a Surface tablet? Do you think Google's not going to try to push their own products?
Yeah.
It would be kind of like silly. So that's why right now we're in a period where if you don't want that to happen, I recommend you go buy a subscription to all of these different programs, because if you force them to go the way of monetizing the data and the algorithms themselves, well then, yeah, there probably will be a strong incentive to have bias. Whereas if we actually just say, no, we will pay for this, both as corporations and as individuals, then like we will actually probably be in a space where they'll say, no, this is their own personal domain. I don't want to mess up my money.
So that's interesting because it could be you're almost saying that the freemium model of give us your data and we'll give you lots of stuff for free. Maybe that's not going to be the winning recipe for generative AI. And I think that's a good point because it's not as obvious how you're going to monetize it.
Like, that's what Google does now, right? A lot of companies do now. You give it your.
Well, it's all free. Like, I give you everything for free, and then we monetize your data.
They know where you live. They know your emails. They know.
Yeah, and they figure out. I mean, it'll go for Google, right? It just goes back to ads.
Exactly.
Like better ads, but it's interesting because the ad model is very different for generative AI, and it's unclear if we've even figured out exactly what that advertising model looks like. Yeah, because like Gemini is not giving you adverts right now. So it might be a bit of time before that gets figured out.
For sure.
Yeah.
So we got another question from Stephanie, and she, she's also a bit of a plea to your earlier comment. Where do you recommend an entrepreneur or solopreneur start in this world of generative AI to get their startup on the right path? There's so much information out there, as she mentioned.
I love this question. You're going to actually make me smile. You need to go have a complete understanding of GPTs and I don't mean you made 15 GPTs or 50 GPTs.
The more personalized ones, the ones you can make sort of.
Yeah, on OpenAI. Right? Whether you attack it, and I think it's genius that they gave you two ways to do it. You could go build it with the tools, like they were said, hey, most people can't code. We've got a GPT builder that's pretty robust on our own platform. And it's really good. I mean, my own training, I spend at least each week probably 4 hours in the GPT builder on the same GPT. So not because like the question is, okay, I have all this information. I have these wonderful engineers that keep improving their algorithm. They're not going to tell us everything that they're doing, but we know to keep an edge, they're going to do that. If I go in there and I just commit, 4 hours a week, right? I'm learning things from the GPT where I'm like, oh, last week it was hallucinating on this one thing. Yep. It's not doing that anymore. Oh, this now, if I give it GPS, no. If I give it latitude and longitude coordinates versus actual addresses, oh, it's always exact, right? And like the basis at which you actually interact with these things, you can develop an understanding that's unparalleled, that gives you such an edge in the world. Now, and then you don't actually have to understand the nuts and bolts of how this stuff works. You need to know the data and you need to know how to position it and how to leverage it. And if you have an understanding of APIs, let's talk about that. Like APIs changed so much in the last 18 months. Yeah. What you can do with an API, the same API, like what you could do like 18 months ago versus today, the same API. It's mind blowing. So I think if you can give yourself the advantage of go understand what OpenAI is trying to do with the GPT app store and understand what you can do from like a webhooks API standpoint, and also packaging and positioning. You know, should you have your own domain for your GPT? Should you figure out a way to like, you know, growth hack it and say like, you know, training, like this is the things that have not been discovered. People don't know how to leave reviews for this stuff. People don't know how to like recommend it. You know, there's also like there's this gated paradigm to it where, you know, the people that can use GPTs today have to already pay OpenAI like $20 or some change a month. And so like you actually have like that iPhone effect where, you know, you can make an Android app, but they might not pay any money for that phone, where you can make an iPhone app, you know, they spent, you know, some premium dollars on that purchase. And so the aptitude for them to spend money on an app is much higher. This is where I'm seeing a lot of cool things. And it's also, GPTs are forcing everybody else to up their game. And I love seeing that.
So one of the things, maybe you know more about this because you're in the VC world, but there was this initially like 10, 15 months ago, there was this huge spike where everyone was building some sort of wrapper, some sort of little add-on, and they were getting lots of money from VCs because everyone were like, oh my God, we need to be on this. But then that funding sort of dried up.
I think
so. What like? Are you really gonna differentiate yourself by like what's the thing that's gonna differentiate you?
Oh,
like,
okay, I see
what should be going after?
I see what you're saying.
You see what I mean?
So remember, so that's a good question. Go back to 2 points I made, right? I said if you want to add value to an organization today, you probably need to be in the juice. GPTs put you in the juice without having a data science team and $1 billion to go, right? And so now you as an individual and all of your core perspectives, you can start to understand how to work with this emerging technology that is Gen AI. The second thing here, right, is I'm not like, as a solopreneur, my definition of a solopreneur is you're probably bootstrapping or you're putting your own cash into the endeavor, right? This is not a venture-backed company. The difference here is because the market size is so large, like you can have a GPT, you can make it on, what is it, Thursday? Or we can make a GPT today and do a great job of understanding the problem, marketing it, put it on Twitter on Friday, wake up next Wednesday and have 100,000 users. You didn't have to buy, you don't have to pay an AWS bill. You don't have to have a team. You don't have to worry about scale. So when I said earlier that there would be someone that probably makes $1 billion in this space, because it's $1 trillion space and like it's not that hard to get to scale. And the cost to getting to scale are kind of negligible. But to your point around wrappers, if you have a mapping API that you're going to connect to a GPT and it's going to give you a beautiful version of a map, well, there's going to be 1 million of those. But like the App Store, there were 1 million sound grenade apps and fart apps, right? There was a ton of them, and it took several years for us to get past the gimmick, wanky app stage, right? But in that time, there were 2 types of developers. There was developers that were basically just saying, I'm going to show up and do a commit and get my GitHub streak going. And, you know, by day 1,000, I'm actually going to know what to build and how to build. I'm going to have like some muscle. And then there was people that were like hypesters, is like, I can build apps. Send me some money. Like, I can build your app. I can build your app. The people that were building apps and building a true understanding are still here today and are actually very valuable in either the organizations they've started or the organizations they're a part of. The people that were just trying to sell you something went into crypto and other places, and clearly we know how that's working.
Well, Bitcoin is still up, right?
After a lot of people went to jail. Bitcoin's up. A lot of people went to jail.
We've got 2 minutes left. Do you want to take one more?
We got one more question in the chat then,
quick question.
on some of these very important ethical concerns. So the question is, how do you navigate the ethical regulatory implications with Gen AI, let's say in healthcare? Are there limitations to the scope of deep learning tools when it comes to field, especially considering things like patient-sensitive information?
And keep your answer to about a minute.
Yes, so that's a 5-minute, 10-minute answer, but you can give us a 1-minute answer for that.
I think in healthcare, we're going to see Gen AI really have its most impact in areas where it doesn't deal with patients immediately. So think like looking for a new way, like new drug discovery, equations, or processes and procedures that are internal, that don't touch the patient, that aren't patient facing. Right? Like that's where I think it will pop up. But I mean, I've seen some cool stuff like on the genomics stand, from a standpoint and domain. But like, yeah, that could be a whole D squared session.
There's a whole fireside chat. That's a great question. There's a whole fireside chat.
D cube. Yeah, it could be a whole D cube question.
Data digital design.
Yeah, D
When you
cube.
put them together,
DQ.
exponential scale.
Yeah.
A little bit of advertising, and then Q, maybe just like final thoughts for
Yeah.
you as we wrap up.
A lot of this stuff is moving so fast where you might feel just overwhelmed because you're trying to keep up with your daily life, your career, and then also all the emerging technologies that are at bay. And I would just say like, hey, take a second, breathe, pick one or two of these technologies, go deep, and if it's here to stay in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll have such a great advantage because it's still so early.
Yeah.
And the tools are changing each and every day. It's almost like it's inconceivable how many programming languages that we're expecting every single AI expert to know and have mastered and manipulated within the last 18 months. There's no other benchmark.
Perfect. All right. Well, Q,
Thank you so much.
Why don't you wrap it up?
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you so much for being here, being part of the fireside chat with us. We thank you to the audience for being present, for the great questions. It's been a really great learning opportunity for us. Again, feel free to check back in with us for future fireside chats. Check out our DS and AI operations lab, everything going on at D Cubed. Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Q, for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.